Like cooking, everything has a recipe.
A set of instructions to follow in order to gain a certain result.
Music is no different.
Be it ingredients for a dish, a set list for an amazing show,
Or a release strategy for a successful launch.
these are all recipes.
Hi, we're your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brandon.
Come and join us in our kitchen as we go through the Music Maker's Cookbook.
Let's get cooking.
Welcome to the Music Maker's Cookbook, the podcast that helps independent artists cook up recipes for success in the music industry. Could I emphasize each word more? I think not.
I like that though.
Yeah. It's impactful.
Very powerful.
I'm in my power pose right now.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I'm Sean.
I'm Brandon.
And we've got a second episode of a series that we're doing right now based off of the book Influence by
Robert Cialdini. We said that wrong the last episode. And I looked it up right before we started just to make sure. And we watched a YouTube video too. So we had Google Translate and we had a YouTube video confirming that we both said it wrong. But that's okay, because now we know how to say it. Cialdini. It's Italian.
I'm still not confident we're saying it right, to be honest.
Me neither, but I feel a little bit better though. Like I feel like we're at least 80% of the way there now.
Yeah, if the overlords at Google said that we're doing it right, then at least we can point the finger at blame at them.
Exactly. Yeah, we can blame somebody else, not ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice. Yeah,
for sure. But no, as I said, today is we're continuing the series of Influence based off of the book by Robert Cialdini, PhD. Can't forget that.
PhD, yes, very important, doctor.
And kind of referencing how it relates to independent artists and how they can make a living in the industry, because this industry is all about influence. Immediately, we might think of like how our music impacts our fans and how it impacts us, like the influence that the music can do. But honestly, it goes way beyond that. And
definitely.
It's way more powerful than just the music. And these are the things that a lot of people don't necessarily think of, but can really set you apart and help build up a career in the long run versus just a short-term thing.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful knowing some of these tools as you move forward with your career. Like we do a lot of these things and we don't even know that we're doing them. It's just kind of human nature at this point. It's a lot of learned behavior from stemmed as a child, and then growing up into a world where we have a ton of normalcies and a ton of social norms, that we have to kind of confide to in order to survive. And it's definitely helpful knowing how to use some of these to your advantage. It sounds really manipulative, and like it can be, and we will talk about that. Like we talked about in the last episode. Concepts, yes. But it's also good knowing just to maybe help things swing your way every now and again, or come to a good middle ground with some people that you're working with.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And a large part of this episode, which is going to be about the rule of reciprocity, does hinge on the basic concept of the click-run principle, which we cover in the last episode. It's that biological, psychological kind of reflex of when you see something, you automatically react a certain way just based upon us being humans and based upon us being, people. We want to do certain things because that's how we evolved. And the reciprocity is a huge thing based off of it, the feeling of indebtedness, the feeling of we have to give back when we were given something. And, we're going to go into it, but it can be really, really powerful and can lead you to do mental gymnastics and put yourself in a worse place if you feel indebted to somebody.
Absolutely.
And things like that. So these are ways you can use it, ways to look out for it. With all that being said, do you remember like the last time you've been affected by the law of reciprocity? Now you're learning these and you're thinking of it.
4 days ago.
Really?
Yes. And I didn't realize I was doing it at the time. It was more of like a click run response to what happened. This is going to sound really fucking stupid. At the apartment, I have a place where I park. Okay. This is my parking spot. I've lived here for a couple years now. I park there every day. Somebody new moved in, right? They took my spot. No worries. I'll just get my spot back when they move. Keep taking it. They take it. I'm like, all right, bro. All right, this is my parking spot. And I'm not like pissed. Like it's just like, okay, whatever. Like I guess I'll park across the lot now. And I don't know who this is for the longest time. Then I start seeing them get into the car. I'm like, okay, so I know who the person is, like whatever. Like I don't care. Fast forward, I'm getting out of my car on Friday and his dog comes up to me because it was off the leash, and old dog, really sweet, really nice. I love dogs. So like I'm petting. I'm like, oh, you're such a good boy, whatever. He's like, oh, sorry. Like I didn't mean for my dog to get out, and I'm in my spot now. And I was like, walking away, and like I just so happened to grab a box of dog treats out of my car because we had just gotten some. And as I'm walking up to my building and he's walking up to his, I'm like, I'll just throw him a bone. Like literally, like throw him a dog bone. I was like, hey, did you want a treat for your dog? And he was like, oh yeah, dude, like thanks, man. And he introduced himself, like we shook hands and everything. My spot has been open every single time since that day.
And his car's been there,
and
but
his
in
car's
a
been there,
different
but in
spot.
a different spot.
Oh,
Different side of the lot, different part of the lot, you know, whatever. It worked. And like, I didn't mean for it. See, that's the thing though, is I didn't have that intention going in and being like, I'm going to manipulate this dude to get my spot back, because then he'll owe me something. Not even a thought. I was just really like, oh, I have dog treats. He was a good boy. Like, you know, try to make his day, try to make the dog's day, you know, like, so yeah, I opened up the new box, gave him one. And now all of a sudden my spot's been open ever since that.
Boom.
Weird. Yeah.
Feels like he needs to, you know, owe it to you.
Right. Like possibly. Right. So like, that's the thing. We don't know for sure unless we were to go to ask him. Like maybe this is purely coincidental too, but I thought about it like on Saturday. I was like, whoa, this principle just worked. And like, just weird. And like, what a fucking stupid thing to fucking even talk about, like a parking spot. But like, it was just this, I think this goes to show, like, because I was going to mention in here that the magnitudes of what is reciprocated can either be large or small. This is a very small, minute thing that doesn't make a difference in my life, like at all. Like, in fact, I'll probably get more steps if I walked further, right? So maybe, it should be beneficial for me to get more steps if I didn't park there. But this could happen at multiple different levels of things, you know, along the way. I do want to mention one thing real quick before we move on to actually getting into the rule of reciprocation is that this chapter of the influence and then the book, The Go-Giver, kind of go hand in hand.
Oh yeah, this book is all about the reciprocity process.
Yes, it is. The Go-Giver is a little bit more abstract about it. There's less concrete examples. It's more of
it's a parable.
It tells you, it uses the word value a lot, right? Which is awesome because value can mean a lot of different things, and it's very intrinsic to the person. So like you sometimes have to know what the influence book that we're talking about right now. This chapter gives you a lot more concrete examples that help you apply that rule even further and give you better ideas of how to apply it in everyday life, which is really nice. So both of these books go hand in hand. Definitely read both. Yes. I would say. And then once you do read The Go-Giver and then Influence, or one way or the other, right? Cumulative property, right? Or whatever it is, commutative property. Doesn't matter which one you read first, but you will see the overlapping value of both books.
Oh yeah, for sure. And just to kind of tell you the structure of what this episode is going to be is the first half of it's going to be front loaded with the theory of what this is, the stories of how it's been applied, kind of examples that maybe not necessarily relate to music or you as an artist. Yeah. But towards the end, the whole final half of it is going to be going through specific ways that you as an artist can use reciprocity to build your influence, quote unquote, but really just kind of like build a reputation, open some doors, get better relations with other people in this industry, bands, venue owners, things like that. Yep. So the front half is going to be kind of explaining exactly what it is, and the back half is going to be pertinent specifically to you.
Exactly.
So don't skip this first part, but the back end has the goodies to it.
First
so
part
stick around for
very theory heavy.
Yeah.
Very theory heavy. This feels more academic. These first halves have been, like last episode, I feel like was kind of the same way. Kind of front loaded it with the content that set us up to be able to talk about how to apply it within our music careers. Right. So let's get into it. The rule of reciprocity, of reciprocation.
What a word.
So basically, as humans, we try to repay what has been given to us, whether it's an act or something physical, right? Like a book or flowers, well, whatever. We always try to repay what has been given to us because we feel indebted to do so. This is a survival mechanism. We don't want to be alienated by the community at heart. That's just what we've grown up through. So we don't want to be seen as a mooch. So that's why we feel the need to repay with the reciprocity rule, right? Human nature, we learn about it in childhood, definitely learned behavior more so than maybe given to us at birth, right?
I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit learned, but also there is just that kind of
the survival
instinctual
part of it. Yeah, exactly.
And just to showcase how strong it is, if you've ever given $10 to a friend and then didn't hear from them for months. Yeah. That sense of indebtedness, that sense of guilt of like, oh man, I can't give them $10 back, or like I'm just gonna completely cut them out of my life because I owe them $10.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot.
Exactly.
I've seen that a lot.
So if you've ever experienced or if you've ever done it, then this really showcases how big that feeling of indebtedness that people don't like it.
Yeah, great point, because I was about to say that I reiterate what I said earlier, that this can happen in small or large magnitudes. Now you might hear $10 and be like, oh, whatever. Like it's just $10. Sometimes that's a big thing to people. The magnitude depends on the person. It's all perceived on how big something can be, right? We talked about this being often a click run response. And I think that is 100% right? I do think that this can be a controlled run response depending on who it is and what you're giving back and how thoughtful you want to be about it. So let's say you've done this before.
Yeah.
You've built a guitar and then you gave it to a person, right? That is very thoughtful, well thought out. You didn't it wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm just going to do this. Gone, right? Didn't come over, felt good that day. Take the guitar home. It's all yours, yours. Off the lot, You thought about this, right? Very controlled. And then didn't he give something back to you?
Well, yes and no, because the first time I did that, I have built a guitar purposefully and then given it to somebody. And then, yes, a client of mine, and he came back and he gave me a saxophone that he had thrifted. Yeah. But the opposite happened where I gave another buddy for my birthday, gave me his old bass guitar that he had used to record their first album. And I was like, crap. Well, now his birthday's coming up. I got to give him something. Yeah. So I gave him a bass guitar the first ever guitar that I ever built, the first bass guitar I ever built, which had a complete custom body, headstock, all that stuff. And I gave that to him as a gift. And he doesn't own it anymore. I don't think I'm ever going to see that guitar again. I'm a little sad about it. Sad. But the feeling was so strong of just like, oh yeah, you gave me this. Once again, thank you so much for the bass. I still use it. But it's this like Caravan or whatever bass guitar that's like, it's an $80 bass guitar. And, for all intents and purposes, it's a fully custom bass. Custom pickguard, custom body, all that stuff that I gave back to him because my feeling of indebtedness was like, I need to give him something. I have this. He gave me a bass, so I'll still have a bass. Let me give this back. So great. Both have happened.
Great point you bring up because actually that's something that Dr. Robert Cialdini talks about in this book is actually that sometimes this value of reciprocation, depending on what you give in return can actually be double, triple, quadruple times what you've gotten in the past, right? What you are reciprocating for, right? Value is all perception, right? You valued that bass pretty highly. I would have too. Sounds like a sick ass bass. I've seen pictures of it. Looks awesome. Equal exchange? I don't know.
Well, see, here's the thing. The guy who gave me his bass, he's a guitar player. That's why he gave me the bass. Yeah. The fact that I gave him back a guitar, that's why he gave it to somebody else because he didn't have a purpose for it. He didn't have much of a need for it. It didn't have as much weight as a gift as the bass did to me, which is why I'll probably never see it again because he gave it to a different bass player. Yeah. Now, if I had given him a guitar that I had built, he'd probably still own it. He might play it every now and then. Totally. But because I gave him a bass, the value... Well, it was literally both were basses and one had more importance to me. It wasn't equal in his eyes. So I kind of gave him back a bad gift, even though it was a good gift. If that makes sense.
Exactly. By the way, the guy that you made this exchange with, I'm not saying that this was a good or a bad deal. It's not my place to judge. I'm not judging at all. I just want to put that out there. So don't be mad at me. I'm literally not saying anything about that. What's his name?
It's Ben.
Ben, I'm not saying anything. Swear to God. That was just a perfect time to illustrate that point that Dr. Cialdini talks about in the book.
I still play your bass, by the way. I do really appreciate it. I just would like to buy my bass back.
Shout out to Ben. Shout out to Ben this episode because thank you for this. So yeah, that was awesome point. Thank you for illustrating that because I totally did not have that written in my outlines, and now I remembered, and that's awesome. So good, A+ for us. That's awesome.
But as you mentioned, that was the click run. Yes. I wasn't thinking I need to give him a gift before I had received the gift, and it was that immediate thought of like, oh crap. It was literally an oh crap moment where it's like, I need to give him something now. Yeah. Because there was that immediate indebtedness, that immediate feeling of like, oh, we're giving gifts now. Yep. Click, run. Yep. There was a response and immediately we need to give something back. Exactly. And that led me to give back something that.
Now, let's say
that just is, that's how it ties back to the whole click run philosophy of it.
Yep. And go back and listen to that for the first episode of the Influence series where we talk about the click run response. Go click on that and run to it. Oh, terrible. Okay.
Yeah, and especially since we highlighted it.
Yes. So sorry.
No. I do all the fucking time.
Now, I have a question for you. A lot of reciprocation is click run, I feel.
Yep.
If you had sat there and been like, okay, we're giving out gifts now, right? I want to make sure that I get him something really cool. I'm going to build something from scratch. Would you say that's more of a controlled run response to that?
I would. And that's where I think I wasn't aware of this law of reciprocity and the click run thing at the moment. So I didn't have the mental aptitude to be like, look at the scenario, realize, oh, I got a gift. I feel indebted. This is what is happening here. I wasn't able to really control it, at least not in a aware way.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
It was just
you
that
felt the pressure.
click
though.
run. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, and part of us saying this is so you're more aware of it when these things happen to you. You can take that time to step back and have a controlled run response where it's like, okay, I see what's happening here. Is this something that is viable to me? Is this a part of the overall exchange I'm getting? If this is a sales tactic, should I just treat it as such? It's not a gift at all. It's part of them trying to get me, or is this a genuine gift that I can give a genuine gift as a response to and not feel like I need to overpay or I'm not indebted to it, because you can have that awareness to it. I didn't have the awareness at the time. That's why I just did a click run. But definitely, for sure,
a lot of
people
people don't
taken
have
time
that.
and thought.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people don't have that awareness. I mean, Dr. Cialdini says even in the book, I mean, he uses the free sample as an example, where you go to Costco, you get a free sample, and all of a sudden you're buying the damn thing because you feel bad that you just took something from someone for free, right? I don't feel like that. Give me that free sample. I'll actually come back twice, you know? And
because we understand that's part of the sales thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And honestly, I just want to say this too. Not even pertinent to the topic, but I just want to say that I'd be interested in studying the free sample in terms of behavioral economics too, because of inflation and how those two overlap. So see how the psychology of inflation and the psychology of reciprocity, how they differ. See, maybe percentages go down in terms of what people buy after a free sample because shit's expensive now.
Well, I would say they might go up, because if someone's used something being $2, now it's $4, but you're still getting the same size free sample. Yeah. Now the value behind that free sample is higher. So
see, this is why I want to study that. That'd be really cool. If anybody knows a study like that, I'd be very interested in knowing. So please tell me.
That's it.
Didn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. Let's move on.
Did I answer your question?
Speaking of concessions, yes, it did. Thank you very much. Speaking of concessions, I'm not talking about the food. There's actually something called concessions that we do in terms of bargaining. Did you say bargaining? Yeah. Reciprocation. It all falls under the same umbrella.
If you're going to a pawn shop, a garage sale, or a flea market, or a swap meet, especially if you've done like instrument exchanges or things like that, or going to music stores to trade in a guitar for a different guitar or whatnot, there's a bargaining stage where it's, hey, I'll give you this and you give me that, or I can't quite pay that. How's this number? Yep. If you ever use like Facebook Marketplace or use things for your pedals or whatnot, someone has like the bass that I bought was listed for 1,000 and hit back like, hey, how's 750? Like, oh, I'll do 800. And boom, that's a concession.
Yep. If you need to see something on concessions, then you can go watch the show Pawn Stars, because that's all they do on there. It's just a bunch of stuff, even though it's very brutal negotiation sometimes.
And it works. And Brandon's going to tell us how it works.
I am. So basically, concessions involve you asking maybe too much of what you want in order to get the actual desired outcome of what you're actually looking for. For example, like Sean said, there's an $1,000, you want to sell your bass for $1,000. You might put it up for $1,250. And so you leave yourself a little bit of room for negotiation. $1,250 is not out of the question, right? It's still a very realistic price. That's the key, though, is that you can't go ask $2,000 for it, because then you won't get any bites. And people actually think that you're just a joke at that point, and they won't want to actually do business with you because they will see that in you. They will be like, I don't want to deal with that kind of person, right? So it has to be realistic. So Sean lists it for $1,250. Somebody messages them and say, hey, will you take $900? Ooh, a little bit of a low ball. Sean's like, I got this. Okay, $1,100. The guy's like, oh, I'll come up to 1,000. Sean's like, I can let that go for that, because that's what Sean wanted in the first place. That was his minimum that he wanted to let it go for, and he was able to get that because he asked for a little bit more in the beginning part of things. He made a concession to that person. Now Sean's happy. That person is happy. Everybody walks away happy, right?
Yep. And here's why this works. One, the person selling it gets the amount that they are initially happy with. If someone would buy it for $1,200. Perfect. They got more than they were happy with. If someone knocks them down to 1,000, perfect. I got exactly what I wanted for it. And the other person, even if they had a budget of 900 and went up to 1,000, they feel responsible and they feel like they made the choice of that purchase. It was them coming up and them hitting the number. So they still have ownership of the purchase, which just makes them feel better about the purchase. It was my decision. It was my choice, not, oh, it's 1,200. I don't have a budget for 1,200, so I'm just going to walk away from it. But if because it walked up to 1,000 and there was that wiggle room there, and they feel like, oh, well, the person went down $200, I went up $200, but I'm going up $200. There's ownership for it, and there's the feeling of, they made that concession for me. They're doing me
Absolutely.
a favor as well. So those two work in tandem.
Yep, absolutely. Actually, there's the technique that I want to highlight here that we made Sean do in this hypothetical scenario. Sean did this thing called a reject and then retreat technique. Basically, what that is asking for that amount up front, right? So let's say he's selling a car now. He asks for $25,000 for the car, but he'll really take $20,000 for it, right? Not out of the question, not unrealistic. Person comes up and says, I don't want to pay that. I want to pay this instead. Sean says, okay, I got rejected, right? My $25,000 offer got rejected. Now I'm going to retreat back to a number that feels better for me, right? Where I kind of actually want to be. So that is the technique that we're demonstrating with those two examples. Very, very helpful. This actually involves the contrasting principle that we talked about in the last episode. So definitely go check out the last episode to learn more about the contrasting principle. We kind of go in depth about that. I don't really want to go into that here since we have already really kind of talked about that ad nauseum. But I do want to say, before we move on to maybe the more music stuff, and if you have anything to add, definitely feel free to jump in. But these techniques and situations, they can be used in manipulating fashions. I think in both case scenarios that we've demonstrated that there could be some kind of manipulation along the way, right? You have to be careful with how you're using these. And you also have to be careful that you're not on the receiving end of manipulation with using these, right? So just be aware. We're just saying that we have to put this in here because some of it does sound kind of shitty if you think about it in that way.
Well,
right?
we've all seen the salesy, and I'm using this, I don't usually normally use the word sales in a negative connotation, but I'm using it in more of a negative connotation.
Even though sales is used a lot in negative connotations. I feel like it's mostly looked upon as negative.
Yeah, but I personally don't. We don't want you to think of it that way.
Absolutely, because it's an important part of the process.
You are trying to make a career out of it, which means you have to sell yourself, your music, your merch, your career. But if you've been to a show and you've shown up before doors opened and you've been in a line, you've probably had people working the lots, working the lines nearby the venue. You're like, hey, here's a pin. Give me money for it. Hey, here's a rose. Give me money for it. Like giving you the gift right off the bat. If you've been to a festival, I'm sure you see those walking Buddhists or monks or things around who will give you like a book and talk to you, or like a pearl or things like that. That's a example he gives in the book. And I personally experienced that. And these kinds of people will try to give you something and then try to get money out of you because, he gave me a gift, so I guess I owe him something.
Which is called an uninvited exchange. That's what Dr. Cialdini labels it as.
And that's when it becomes immoral, when it's uninvited and it's not pertinent to what the person owes you. If are pertinent to what the person expects or needs or values. Like I have no need for a pin. If I'm waiting in line for a show and someone hands me a pin, I have no need for that. There is manipulation behind it. Now, if I am behind, like I'm in the band and I show up before loading and one of the bartenders or whatever, or someone working at the venue walks up and hands me a couple picks, that's valuable to me. That's worth it to me. I might go and I might buy a drink and leave them a nice tip afterwards. Because there is value behind it. And it's less, it can be less salesy if it's pertinent to me. Now, if I've got 10,000 picks, or if the pick says something that I don't agree with or whatever, then it's unwanted. But if it's valuable, then it can make sense to want to give value back. But that's the thing. There's the awareness behind it. There's that distinction of, is this a sales tactics? Is this dirty? Is this an unwanted exchange or not?
Absolutely. A great way to say it, dude.
So if you are giving somebody something, and maybe in the back of the mind, you're like, I'm doing this because I want to get something from them. Don't just give them something random. Don't give them something shitty. Give them something that is pertinent to them or that they can at least get some value out of. And if it is actually helpful, if you are supplying value, then you're a go-giver. You're not a manipulator. You are giving them something that they can actually use. So if you're going to use this technique morally and ethically, I say put some forethought who you're giving it to in the beginning and approach it that way versus I'm going to give this dog a Coke.
Exactly. I feel like sometimes like illustrating this as like if you're the person giving first, it should almost be a little bit more controlled run. Like honestly, with a few exceptions of like in an instant, right? Like, so somebody comes over, you're like, they're talking about liking this thing, and it's like, oh, I remember I have one of those. I don't use this, right? I'm going to give this person this item because they're talking about it. That's very quick run, very spur of the moment.
And that's a lot of the examples we have later on is be prepared to give these things to people because it helps benefiting you, but don't push it in their face.
Now, if you know a venue owner that has talked to you about loving LED lights or something, and you're like, oh, I want to get them something for getting me this gig, or I want to get him something because he's my friend, or for something for Christmas, then it's more of a controlled run response, because you kind of take what he's given you along the way and said, oh, I like this, I like that. And then you're like, oh, idea, I'm going to give him this, right? Now you don't expect anything in return. That's how kind of like the rule of reciprocity works, is like, you probably shouldn't expect something in return, because if you do, then it kind of gets a little manipulative. That's where, you know, it kind of, the line starts getting blurred a little bit right there. But this can happen in both click run and controlled run responses. So that's kind of just like what I wanted to highlight there.
Yeah. So I'm once again, just before we move on, I'm going to highlight once again that the go giver is the moral way of using reciprocity.
Great way. Actually, that's great.
Yeah.
Influence is very theory based, this is the psychology behind it. The go giver ties it up nicely and delivers it better and shows you how to do it morally correct.
So with that being said, are you kind of jump into certain ways that
I am ready.
Artists?
I'm ready.
All right. My body is ready. Reggie Fils-Aimé reference. First, we're going to talk about different kind of groups. And that's how we're structured it. Different groups and different ways you can use the law of reciprocity within these kinds of situations and with these people that you'll be interacting with in this music industry. The first thing I want to tackle is just fellow bands, whether it be you're doing a feature with them or going on a ticket on a show with them. You're going to be interacting with a lot of bands, and there's some small things you can prepare for and do that help build up the law of reciprocity, help them want to help you more, grow your careers together. And that's the thing. You're trying to grow with them, not use them as a stepping stone.
Exactly.
So kind of the first thing is, if you're playing gigs, so I do installs of sound systems in churches, venues, things like that. And we have a bin called the everything bin, where it's small amounts of literally anything we could potentially need at an install. So if we forgot something at the shop, we have at least enough to get through the start of the project, and we can go back and grab it the next day, but at least we have the foundation and it's extra of what we need. Make your own everything box. Bring extra picks, capos, cables, strings, anything that you could use. It maybe a little far-fetched, but like a drum head or like moon gels or things like that. Just have an everything box that maybe you keep in your van, you keep in your car, a small one that you like, a small bag that's got a bunch of stuff you keep in the pouch of your guitar bag, things like that. Shit, if you're doing this a lot, an extra like backup guitar things in case your stuff has issues. Bring backups of basically everything, because if the band before you during rehearsal breaks a string on their guitar and they don't have an extra string, you can be like, oh shit, I've got one in my car. I'm gonna run and grab you a pack of strings. That right there is the law of reciprocity. It's that click run where it's the, oh, you've got a problem, I have the solution, here's an authentic way of supporting. Or if their cable dies, oh crap, I've got an extra cable, let me do that. And if you really want to go above and beyond, I also have a soldering iron in my everything box in my kit. So let me just fix your cables for it so you can have a working cable at your next gig.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Things like that.
If you want to really go a different route too, this is more a controlled run, I would say, but planning for this ahead, get picks with your band name on it. You know, get cables with something written on there that, you know, it came from you somehow, some way, shape, or form. It's an extra touch point, right? Not necessarily going towards your audience. If you throw picks out in the crowd, that's cool, whatever. But it's an extra touch point. So just in case you need that extra nudge, like, oh yeah, like I forgot that they helped us out that one time. That's awesome, right? Little extra bonus. Just saying, might be kind of cool, might be expensive though. So
branding.
Dude,
I actually have some
decent touch points though.
I actually have some custom Fender medium picks.
Oh, nice.
Because once you buy enough of them, I bought like 150 or whatever. Once you buy from a
studio, super cheap after.
Once you buy enough of them, it's the cost of a normal pick.
Yeah.
So why not brand it?
Exactly.
Especially if you're playing a lot of shows and you're doing rehearsal. And
yeah.
Picks is a great thing to have extras of and to have your branding on.
Most definitely.
But another thing you can do to kind of build the law of reciprocity with other bands is if the other band has a merch booth. I didn't say it wrong this time.
No, you said it right.
I was so intent for that. If you got a merch booth, new songs coming, cool merchandise, or any other announcements that they have going on, shout them out during your show.
Mm-hmm.
Give them the gift of the eyes and ears and attention on them. Make them feel important. Even though you're on the stage, showcase the other people around you. Because one of the highest, we did a artist's hierarchy of needs, but the top part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is the need to feel important. Mm-hmm. And anytime you can give someone the gift of importance, that is also a really powerful gift. Not a physical thing, an emotional thing, but, and we're going to circle around with this with venue owners, making them feel important as part of building the law of reciprocity. But anytime you can make other bands feel like they're important, that's going to build a strong relationship and the law of reciprocity with you and them. Even if you want to go a step above and beyond, if they don't have somebody manning their merch booth, when they hit the stage, jump behind, man yours, and say like, hey, before the show, if they have nobody handling it, say, hey, when you're on stage, I'm going to be by my merch booth. If you want to give me a quick run through of what you've got here, I can, collect a couple of things or sell some things for cash or whatnot while you guys are performing if you want me to. So that when they're performing, they can still have sales going on and they can say, hey, stop by and grab our album. It's out now if you want. And they can use that momentum while they're on stage to get sales going, which helps their pockets.
Yeah.
So that's another thing you can do.
Yeah. Great point. I mean, a lot of what we've been talking about too has been sort of based around reputation as well. Mm-hmm. And like this law of reciprocity will help you gain a good reputation as long as you use it in that way. So like I go back to the manipulation thing. If you start manipulating people with it, that is the negative way to do it. That's a negative feedback loop and you're toast. It's over. Yep. Your reputation is really a lot of everything, especially in the music industry and especially in the local community, because people talk, people know each other. Yeah. And the more that you help out, the more that should come back to you in the long run. Should. Not saying it will, but it should.
You can do a lot of shitty things to get really far ahead for a short amount of time.
Absolutely.
Or you can do a lot of good things to gradually get more ahead for a long period of time, which keeps you doing it longer and you end up a lot higher than you would be otherwise.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah. And kind of speaking of some other things that you can do for bands that build up the law of reciprocity is if you are on a ticket with other artists doing a show or whatnot, include them in your promotional materials, tag them in on your posts, make posters that have the other bands well, and message them saying, hey, I'm making this poster together. I want a high quality image of your band so I can highlight it. Mm-hmm. Can you please send me some of your promotional materials? And send it to them. Say, hey, you can share this around. You can post this around. And if you really want to go above and beyond, here's a really cool one. Not just add other bands to the posters, but make stuff specifically for them in the style of what you're doing. That way it's cohesive. You're building an event, not just a show, something that people really want to go to. Make stuff for them so you don't have to worry about it. And when you are putting stuff on, make them on even playing field or even put them above you. This goes back to the feeling of importance again. If you make them the headliner and say, hey, featuring their band, including your band, that's going to make them feel really, really important, which adds to the law of reciprocity. And once again, it's the gift of I'm important. And that just is really good at building relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. This definitely has a lot to do with letting your ego down, in the forefront. Because like if you are the headlining band, which I'd argue these days that the headlining band in the smaller areas, you know, is not great. I would say that the second or third band is probably the best if you're on a ticket with 4 bands or something like that, just because there's still a lot of people there. If you can let your ego down and do that, that will help facilitate that reciprocity effect. That you have to get beyond yourself first and be willing to sacrifice the top space on the poster, whether it's your show or not, right? And let nature take its course.
And that may mean you have to make 2 posters or 2 different kinds of posts. One for you to post in your social medias that may have you on top. One that has for them that you give them to post and for them to share that has them on top. Or as I said, you can always do equal footing where it's a equal split of the 2 of you. No one's taking up more of the page. No one's more important. Put their name before yours. Because even if you're the headliner, if it's their name before yours, that also is a way of doing it.
Exactly.
But just showcasing that you value them, that they're important, that they're a big part of what's going on. And we talk about live shows. We have a series episode 16 to 20, I think. No, 19. 16 to 19.
Sounds about right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
We have a live series where we talk about making live shows work. And we talk about the importance of making the show an event where people actually want to talk about it and want to go to it. So making posts for other bands, one, builds up reciprocity, and two, it builds a cohesion, which we've talked about in every episode, but a cohesion that people can relate to and get excited for and share around, and keeps the theme all together. And it builds reciprocity. It takes the work out of what they have to do.
Exactly.
Basically what I said 2 minutes ago, just said again, because it's important. But yeah, that's all I have for ways to help fellow bands using the law of reciprocity.
Yeah. So now we'll move on to venues and how to maybe use the reciprocity effect for that. First one, we also mentioned during our live concert series, but is to give a shout out to the venue during the show. This one seems like it should be really self-explanatory, but doesn't happen like a lot, like, which is surprising. But like, definitely have to give the venue their kudos, man. I mean, they're having you out, they're putting this whole event on, you know, they have staffers here. These people had to get up, or I mean, if they got up at 6 o'clock at night, it's interesting life choice. I mean, I'm not judging, but but these people, they had to leave, go do their thing, and come to work, and so they could be here to serve alcohol or take tickets or whatever the case may be for your show. Shout them out. They're already doing something for you technically, whether they have to or not. They're still doing something for you. So now it's your turn to relay that reciprocity, and say, shout out to these guys. You know what? Bonus points if you do it twice.
Yeah, at least. I would say at least twice.
I would say,
honestly.
that's minimum.
Yeah. Once again, this is giving the gift of importance of we are here because of them. Be thankful. What's the word with the phrase with how to make friends and influence people? Hearty with your affirmation and lavish with your praise. I think that's the saying of it. And be truthful, be honest. Like, we're here, we're able to be here because they let us be here. So another thing you can do is say, hey, please get a drink. Join us at the bar afterwards. Tip your bartender. Things like that. Thank the bouncers. Be very graceful. Not graceful. Be very full of affirmation. Lavish with your praise of being thankful for why you're there. All the things that make it possible. A lot of it is the venue. They're taking a big risk. They're hosting you. They're manning the doors. They're providing people with services while they're there, keeping the bathrooms clean. All that. Be lavish with your praise.
Absolutely.
And make them feel important.
Yeah. You know what else people should do when they're on stage?
What?
Just tell people to get drinks. Because that's how these venues really make their money. Let's totally be honest here, right? Go tell people to go get drinks. Go tell people to go get food if they serve food there. And by the way, that food's probably slapping.
Probably.
You know, bar food, pretty damn good. Most of the time. There are exceptions. I haven't had the food at Old Shillelagh in downtown Detroit, but man, I've been there during breakfast time to work. I wasn't there to have a good time, promise. That food looked really damn good, though. I kind of wish I had some. That was like 11 years ago, and I still can't let it go. So that's how good the food looked. So just saying. Is the place still open? COVID didn't kill it? Yeah, it's still open. Yeah. So maybe we got to go there sometime. Yeah, do an alcoholic episode.
The drunk episode.
That's right.
I've never been drunk.
Really?
Yeah, it's completely completely unrelated topic. I've had a whole mason jar of moonshine, and that didn't get me drunk.
Really?
I'm very surprised too. I was very.
You sure it wasn't water?
It wasn't. It was like the person I was with. She had one too, and she got wasted.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's like
drunk. Pure moonshine.
Yeah, I'm 6'5", half Irish, half German. So if that gives you any reference,
that is true.
I'm also 240 pounds, so I got some weight.
That's fair. That's fair. Did you have food with it too?
No.
Oh
no.
Interesting.
Yeah. I got a little buzz.
We're gonna get Sean wasted on the next episode.
I'd be interested in knowing how I react.
I would be too, and we got to get it on camera.
Yeah, because I've definitely had drinks, but I've never been drunk.
You know what? I got a drink in the fridge over here. You want it?
We were just talking about that beforehand. It looks like shit. Just to be blunt, I'm a porter guy. I'm a stout guy. I'm not a natty guy.
I gotcha.
Oh, I just had to do that since we're talking about drinks and stuff like that.
That's funny.
Kind of like you said, you offered me a free drink, which I appreciate it. And a lot of times when bands are performing at bars and in venues that have bars, they will give the performers like, hey, here you get 1, 2, 3 free drinks on the house, or here's a case or whatever. As kind of a gift to the artist.
Yeah.
They're doing the same thing. They're doing the law of reciprocity. We appreciate you being here. Here's a gift. Here's some drinks.
Exactly.
Even if you didn't pay for them, even if you get food or drinks and you accept it, and you want to kind of keep that ball rolling of just the law of reciprocity, tip the waiter, tip the bartender for the free stuff because it shows like, hey, I'm gracious for it.
Yep.
And then it builds up it kind of goes back and forth there. So, and then if they come back to you and they say like, oh yeah, we didn't get a lot, so we're gonna take we agreed to you getting half the door, whatever. We're taking 75% or whatnot because we gave you some drinks. Like, well, yeah, but I tipped on it. Yeah, it also helps protect you.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they're doing it for manipulative reasons.
Yeah, definitely. Great point. Yeah, great point.
So it builds a strong connection with people who are working it, shows value for that, yada yada. But also it could be kind of a protective thing as well.
Yeah. Last point on this that I want to make real quick, and this is obviously isn't a tangible thing, but you underestimate how many people talk to the bartenders and what kind of power bartenders can have at these places. You go up to some dude, some random guy, 30-year-old guy, right? Goes to I'm thinking of the Blind Pig right now because that's just how because we've been there multiple times together, and because you can just go there and just walk in, just go have a drink, live music's playing, whatever. You're not even there for the show. Some dude walks in, goes to the bar, sitting there. He's like, "Any good bands lately?" And then the bartender goes, "Actually, the guys that are coming up at 7:00, right? They're actually really cool dudes. They have great music. You should check them out and stay for their show."
Boom.
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 Extra conversion, word of mouth. Just saying. People underestimate the power of word of mouth sometimes, and people underestimate the power of bartenders. So that is a great way to receive that reciprocation is just by a recommendation. So
not last thing, but one more thing you can do for the law of reciprocity with venues. It's the same thing that works with bands. Promotional support. If you're trying to book a gig at the venue, create a rough outline of the poster that highlights the venue as well and share in your application to the venue saying, hey, we want to perform here on this date. This is how we plan on promoting the event. We plan on putting these posters around the city, having these kinds of posts, contacting these radio stations, all of which talking about your venue, like calling like the historic Blind Pig or the same stage as these other acts that have been on there that highlight the importance of the venue. If you can showcase how you're going to be talking about them in your promotional materials, not just you, not all about you, they're more likely to take a chance on you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because one, you're approaching them with a plan. Like, this is how we're going to promote this event. This is how we're going to promote this show. Not just, we want to play here. And that's it.
Yeah.
There's a plan. They have something that they know you're going to act upon, and it showcases them. So that's kind of the last thing. And as I said, this works with bands, this works with venues, this works with pretty much anything. Probably not going to talk about this in any of the other options we're talking about, but if you can highlight the other person and how you're promoting it or how you're talking about it, that's a big thing.
Absolutely. Last thing on the venues. I know you said that was the last thing. I have one more thing. And you wrote this. You wrote this. Reject and retreat on gig pay. This one's interesting. This one's really interesting because I can imagine a situation where you're getting paid $250 to play. It's not covering gas for almost anybody, right? And it's just like, this sucks, right? Why not shoot for 400 instead and then get talked down to 300, right?
If somebody asks you for your rate, give them a reasonable amount. Yep. But the rule that I've kind of learned from Six Figure Home Studio when booking artists is whenever someone asks you for your rate, push it just to the brink where you are slightly uncomfortable. That you're okay with the number, but you feel like, am I really worth this? Yep. Like if you've been getting paid $250, like, I'll ask for $350. Yeah.
Where you're not making the other person uncomfortable, where you're making yourself uncomfortable. Yes. That is the key right there.
It's not like I'm $1,000 act right now. Give me $1,000. I'm like, I'm good with $250, but I'd like $350. So let me ask for $350. And it's like, we can't do that. How about $300?
Yep.
Well, now you're getting 50 more than you have been getting. That sets kind of a new foundation. The more you get paid for that, now that becomes kind of what you're worth. But also like it makes them feel like they made the decision of, we're making the purchase. We're stepping up. Like we're paying the 300, which is once again more than you have been paying, more than you wanted. And both of you leave the exchange. We made this decision. We're satisfied with the outcome of it.
Exactly. Great way to describe it too. Yeah. I couldn't think of a good way on my click run response, unfortunately. I just threw out a number and was like, gas prices. So no, that's great though. I think that's the last thing we want to touch on with venues.
Yep.
Awesome. Let's move on to fans.
Yeah.
We're not talking about only fans.
What?
I said we're not talking about only fans. Talking about your fans.
I'm sure there are bands that use that platform.
Dude, if there are, man, let us know how much you make off of it.
That's a promotional tactic. That's branding right there. Mm-hmm. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's some weird shit out there.
There is some weird shit out there.
Follow us on our social medias. We have a series called Believe It or Not Merch where we talk about the weird shit that bands have sold. Mm-hmm. For example, Tenacious D sells a officially licensed cum rag. But having an OnlyFans account is another weird thing out there. Yeah, there's some crazy shit out there.
Wild.
I guarantee you it exists. There's a band with OnlyFans out there.
I can almost guarantee you that exists. Yeah. In some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. So we're going to start talking about things you can do with Reciprocity for fans. But in the meantime, comment below if you want us to have an OnlyFans. Take it away, Brandon.
Oh, boy. There's no reciprocity for that one.
You can only be hurt by this decision.
So we'll start off with a good one that I've been a part of with my radio station career was pass out small gifts to fans. That was so killer, dude. Like such a big part of it. Now that I read that, I wasn't even planning on talking about this, but we'd set up a booth, we'd have stickers, we'd have window decals, we'd have like tattoos you could put on your skin, things like that. Pens. Sometimes we weren't allowed to give out the pens depending on the venue because people would write all over the walls and shit. Whoops. But it was a great way to get people to come to the booth and actually put their name inside the raffle. Now, what the station got back in return was looking like we were busy, right? Mm-hmm. People wanted to be at the booth. We were the center of attention at that point, at that area, right? The things that they put into the basket for the raffles didn't equate to anything monetarily for them. It was like a true giveaway. We didn't sell their information. We didn't keep him. Like after the raffle was done, we shredded them, tossed them out. Nothing was exchanged like that, but it was just the fact of looking like we were the shit at that point. That was their exchange. That was their reciprocity. Here's a sticker. Come hang out with us for a second. We'll take a quick picture, post on social media. That's what the exchange was. And that was, it worked really well.
Oh yeah.
Until they started losing budget and we couldn't do that anymore. So that's when I left.
Yeah.
So, which sucks. Sad.
Which is a big thing. Like make sure that what you are giving out and what you are doing doesn't break the bank.
Yeah.
It's something that is within your budget.
Exactly.
Can get something from it that is valuable, that can help maintain what you're doing, not cause you to dive bomb.
Exactly. Because I assumed those window stickers, they were pretty expensive because they were really nice. They were really nice. And they were the type to go on the outside of your car. So, which means that there's a little bit extra cost with that because of how well they have to make them waterproof and whatever.
The vinyl stickers.
Exactly. So if you decide to implement this, like Sean said, make sure it doesn't bankrupt you, right? But just make sure that there's actually like a decent amount of value behind this too. Don't cheap out and get like a piece of paper that says, here's what you get. And then it's like, what is this? Right.
Yeah.
Don't cheap out and be like, oh, here's a business card. Like, well, there's no value in that. Right. No. You're just soliciting your OnlyFans to me.
But that being said, I'm going to give a couple of gift ideas that you can give that do have value. And a business card does kind of relate to one of them.
Ooh.
So the first thing is cheap wristbands. You see them all the time. Those rubber things that go around the wrist that have just like the basic embossed wording that says the name of the venue or the name of the charity. They're popular at charities all the time. You can have your band name in it. And one, it's just kind of momentum. If you see a bunch of other people wearing it, you feel like you're in part of a group. It can something that you can tie the memories of the event to. And it's not something that maybe everyone will find valuable, but maybe some other people will wear it afterwards. And during the night, it gives value to it because everyone is experiencing that.
Yep.
So cheap wristbands, album QR codes. This is something that I posted on Instagram. That is an idea where like physical albums, like CDs, vinyl is getting bigger, but not a lot of people have record players. Not a lot of people have CD players or cassette decks or anything like that. A lot of it's streaming. Doesn't mean you can no longer have physical media or physical things that you pass out.
Right.
If you create business card-like cards that can fit in a wall that you can easily hand out that are really cheap to produce at like 5 cents a piece or whatever, depending on where you go and how many you get, and just include a QR code that has a link to your link tree or your album on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever it may be. Now they've got something physical that they can just slide in their wallets. It doesn't take up a lot of space. They can have it throughout the night. You don't want to give it anything big that they have to carry throughout the whole event. But it's small. They can just tuck it away. And afterwards, if they liked your music, now they have a super fast, easy, and convenient way to find your music and listen to it after the show. And that's where it becomes helpful for you.
Yep. Now so I know I said no business cards. You might be thinking, oh, this sounds kind of like a business card. Well, first of all, don't listen to me. I'm an idiot. So number two is that there's value behind the QR code, right? That's what you're delivering. A business card is more like, I'm going to sell you something.
Yeah.
I'm going to retain all the value from what you're going to call me for.
Yeah. A business card is, here's my contact information. You reach out to me for value.
Exactly.
The album QR code is basically, hey, here's my music for free.
Yep. Exactly. I'm going to provide you with value past this QR code.
Yep. And if you really want to be creative with it, you can have a separate QR code on the back that says, scan this for something secret. And if you talk to the sound guy or whatnot, and you record the live show from the board or whatnot, you can open it up to a hidden page on your website or a hidden page on Bandcamp or something. And that QR code, you can then link to it afterwards so they can scan it and see the concert that they actually went to.
Yeah, that's
like
cool.
An unlisted
that's
YouTube video of the concert or whatnot. So they can scan on it and relive it.
Yeah.
But it's not public. They can't search it. They can only access it through the card.
Yep.
So there's things you can do like that make it more intriguing, more fun, more interesting than just a business card.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Other ideas are glow sticks.
Glow sticks are cool.
Right?
Glow sticks are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, those are sick.
Especially if you're if you do EDM or at a rave or whatnot.
Yeah, very popular.
Oh,
very popular.
Glow sticks, they're just fun.
Stickers. Interesting one because I know a lot of venues have stopped allowing stickers kind of being passed out because people have been plastering up all over the walls. So definitely talk to the venue beforehand. Don't piss anybody off. But stickers are also great though. If people are responsible with them, because they can put them on the back of the car, they can put them on telephone poles out there, they can do whatever. It's almost like free advertising.
For sure. And the last one that I have, there's plenty more you can do, but I put down earplugs. Love of God. If you're doing music,
underutilized.
Wear earplugs.
Yeah, so underutilized.
This also goes under things to keep for other bands that are performing with you.
Yep.
But just, help people to protect their ears. Make it easy for them to have that option if they forgot their pair at home or whatnot. And you can get a pack of a couple hundred earplugs for $20 or whatnot.
Yeah, you want longevity in music.
Yeah.
That one way to do that is to protect your ears, especially if you're playing a lot of shows and having a lot of band practices, because that'll take a toll real quick.
And so a lot of these were specific that I just listed to live shows. Now there are two different scenarios, two different situations where you can pass these out and both have different benefits. The first one is as they come through the door. If you're doing things like a wristband or stuff like that, those that you want everyone to kind of wear and represent. And the whole point is to get people to have something that ties them to the event as a whole. That's where you want to give it to them. Give them a gift so they are more inclined to pay attention to you while you're on stage, to listen to you while you're performing.
It's a physical touch point.
Yes. That's kind of where they feel like they might have to give you attention as the return for the reciprocity. The other place you can give away a free gift is at the merch table. That's where you could give away things that are more specific, like the album QR code cards or stickers or whatnot. Something that's, hey, you're here at the merch table. This is specifically of interest of you because you're here to grab something that relates to my band. Here's something for free right off the bat. And we talk about how potentially that could lead them to want to actually make a purchase while they're there. You get higher rates. It's that free sample thing.
Absolutely.
Hey, you're here at the merch table. You're here for us. Here's a free sample of something that the band does. If you want to buy more, you're more than welcome to. So that's the second place at a show that I'd recommend giving away something for free. That has a different purpose of it and is completely separate from at the door.
Definitely. You might be thinking free sample, I'm going to cheap out on this, but maybe not as much. Maybe go mid-tier on this, because if you give out the free sample and they get it into their hands and they say, wow, this is actually pretty decent quality. I bet their merch is probably the same quality or even better, right? So I think another cool technique that you could actually use here, and you can disagree with me if you want, just because I was thinking about this on the way here today, is that you can sell a shirt for $60 and then you can sell a beanie for $20, $25, right? Well, somebody might want to come buy some of your merch. They come up and they ask, how much is one of your shirts? Oh, $60. Ooh, it's too much for me. Too much for me. How much is that beanie? Oh, it's $25. Oh, give me the beanie. Still made a sale. Maybe not on the thing that you didn't want to. There will be people that will buy your shirt for $60, most likely. But you capture some of that extra stuff left over by using the reject then retreat technique, except you retreat to a different item in the store. You're still getting support from somebody. You might not be hitting the home run sale, right? You might not be selling the hoodie, But if you sell a hat or a beanie, like we were talking about, that's still good. People are still going to wear it. You still made money, right? It just wasn't where you wanted to be. Now, like I said, people will buy the more expensive stuff, but there will be people that don't want to shell out as much. Win-win.
Yeah, that's kind of the reject and retreat principle a little bit, kind of in their regards of, there's multiple options there. There's the shirt. It's a little too much. I'm going to retreat to the beanie. If you don't have that other side option, if you just have shirts, then there's nothing for them to go down to, which is why it's important to have a tiered amount of stuff at your table. Like $80 sweater, $50 shirt, $25 beanie. So they can go where they want. And we talked about it a little bit last episode. You can start bundling and things like that. There's the psychology behind all that.
And you can use the contrasting principle and whatever else you want. This obviously goes way more in depth than what we're touching on just very briefly, but just like a little point to be made that you can use a similar technique to that.
Another thing you can do is kind of like we mentioned at the radio station is you can offer discounts or raffles to get people to sign up to your email list where you can then post about upcoming shows, new merch drops you've got coming on, things like that to keep fans engaged and aware of you. Email lists are very powerful. We did an episode on that. In addition to the fact the reciprocity being, here's a gift up front, here's a raffle up front, here's the experience up front. You just have to give us your name and your email. I would highly say continue that ball rolling. And in the first email, give something as well. Not just like, hey, thanks for joining us. We got a show coming, or here's a link to all of our, if you didn't buy a shirt, here's a link to buying our shirts. Don't do things like that. The very first one, when somebody signs up, should include a gift. So it could be like a free download of an unreleased version of your song, like a demo version or whatnot, a link to a Discord where your fans are a part of, or a meet and greet or things like that. Special band artwork that's like, you can download this, like here's a phone background that only people who are a part of the email list get links to, or things like that. Coupons for your merch store. Hey, thanks for coming to our show. Thanks for signing up to our email list. Here's 40% off of our merch store that you can utilize within the next 3 months from getting this or whatnot. And another incentivized to maybe do some more stuff with you, but make sure there's something in there that continues the law of reciprocity. Keep on being that go-giver, give them a gift. And if they signed up for your email list, they're at this point, they're interested in your music and you as a band. So if you give something that relates directly to what you're doing, it is a valuable gift. It serves you, but it is a valuable gift to that person because they said, yes, I'm interested in you.
I love this so much. I think you could do all these at once. And excuse me, not at once, but I think you could do all these in time, right? So you first email that you give out when you sign up, you give out the demo version. A week later, you have an automation set up. You give out special band artwork, right? Another week later, you don't want to spam, right? That's why I'm saying weeks apart or a week apart, right?
Or a month
keep
or
whatever. Keep it top of mind, keep it fresh, however you want to space it out. Then you give out coupon in the merch store, right? Third one is like the big one. That's like coupon. Now you're getting money off. That's cool, the first one's huge because I do this with people that leave me inquiries for the studio. Put a video on there of the band thanking that person for signing up for your email list. What a cool touch point that would be. Just to be like, hey, thanks for signing up for here. We're glad that you're a part of this journey with us. We hope to, do whatever to update you with the latest whatever, however you guys want to do it, right? Make it entertaining, make it a little bit more personable. Don't be like, hey there, buddy, but be like, hey, like I appreciate you, so whatever. I think that'd just be really cool. And that shows that gives a fair amount of value to the person, but it also you reciprocate the thank you and the gratitude towards that person right up front, right? Which is sometimes not the case with signing up for emails. Sometimes you'll get stuff, but it's just okay, sign up for an email. Then all of a sudden within 12 hours, I'm getting another email of them selling me stuff already. I'm like, nope, I'm out. I'm out. You're already trying to sell me, right? Build a relationship with this, with the person that's signing up.
And at first, the whole giving a personalized thank you to notes and online orders, or if they sign up to your email list from a show, directly from a show or whatnot, it can be very time consuming and hard to do. When you start off and you're getting maybe one fan, two fans here, another fan there, it can be a little easier to do it and make it customized.
Absolutely.
Just record a quick 15, 30-second video of you thanking them that you can include in on it. Or someone DMs you or messages you or tags you in on a post, you can thank them in a video format where it shows them putting the extra time into it. At the start, it's more manageable because you're only getting a couple people. Once you get to the point where maybe 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 people are signing up or joining or following you after every show, then it's going to be a lot harder to do.
It is.
And take more time.
Yep.
And there are ways that you can make it, simplify it again without
Exactly.
taking it too much time and still keeping it personal.
Yep.
So you can say like, hey, thanks for signing up to my email list. I really appreciate you coming out to see me at the Arc on the 20th.
Yeah.
It was a really good show. I really appreciate you all being there. I
Yep.
love the vibe of this city. I can't wait to get back here, and I can't wait to see you in the crowd again.
Yep. Yep.
Boom. You can send that to all 50 people, and it still seems personalized because you point out the show that they were at. Now they feel important.
Yep.
It's a thank you to them.
Great point. It starts from the individual.
Yep.
Then it branches out to the regional thing. Then it can branch out to, if you get to that point, to something even bigger than that. Then at that point, I'm sure you're going to be hiring somebody anyways, and they'll tell you how to do it. So, but yeah, very, very great point.
All right, moving on to the last section. This is a longer episode than I expected it to be.
This is.
I'm very happy with that.
Me
There's
too.
some good stuff in here. Patting ourselves in the back. We are so modest.
Wow. Look at us.
We're
so
so
good.
vain.
You probably think this podcast is about you, don't you?
Oh, I have a funny story about that. I'll tell you after this
Sweet.
show ends. Anyways, the last section is kind of just for industry insiders and promoters. This is a relatively smaller section than the last ones we've talked about. We're going to start off with like when you're doing interviews, do some research on who's interviewing you.
Yeah.
The company that they would work for, their show, their history, them as a person, just what is interesting about them. What do they care about? What is the show about? Just do a little bit of research so you come in and you can right off the bat bring a relevant gift for them that relates to something that they're interested in. Like if they post that they go to shows every other week or whatnot, there are things you can bring them that kind of, make it easier for them or make it more fun for them to have shows, or things you can like, just things that you can do to make it more personalized. Or you can start off a conversation with their interests instead of saying, "Oh yeah, I've got this song coming out." Be like, "Oh yeah, I see you go to, this venue a lot. Do you know anybody that works there? Like, do you know the venue owner or whatnot?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I've been friends with him for a while now. Oh yeah, I love Bob. He's a great guy." And start off with that. And you can keep it within the industry if you want, or you can go way far out. It's like, "Oh, I heard in 2 episodes ago you talked about how you and your family like to go hiking. Do you know of any good hiking spots around here?" And once again, where it becomes authentic versus manipulative, make sure something you're genuinely interested about.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed, yeah.
Not something you're like, "Oh yeah, I hate hiking. I hate bugs." But like, where did you go camping last week?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. My music's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not really like
my.
my thing, but my music's kind of like my thing, which is why you're talking to me right now.
Yeah. So
Like, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah. That's
Be
yucky.
authentic. Be real about it.
Yeah.
It once again, if it's something that you're interested in, and you can grab something that's small and is relevant to them. Like, "Oh yeah, I've got these boot slippers that I use. I don't know if you ever use them for hiking or whatnot, but they keep the traction and they help keep it, a little bit more water resistant. So I just decided to bring over a pair for you."
Yeah.
That's a relevant gift. That's very interesting for them.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is some of this is like kind of like job interview, like 101, like do something that makes you stand out, they'll bring donuts, or something. It's not ass kissing. People will be like, "Oh yeah, that's just kissing ass." Like, no, it's just called being a decent person.
It is if you're not interested.
That is true though.
If you are genuinely interested.
If you're brown nosing, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just sniffing that ass, man, and you're not interested in anything they say. That is when it becomes when it's less authentic, right? But if you're bringing like something that's genuine to them, they have a favorite book that they like or they've talked about before, bring them a copy that you have or something that you don't use. So something small, it doesn't have to be huge and life changing.
Yeah, for sure. Or open up the conversation with what they're interested in.
Yep, exactly.
And then we're going to go once again back to the reject and retreat principle. This is a little different to how maybe you can use it for people who are in the industry, like being promoters, people who write articles, networking, all that kind of shit, whatever they may be. You can use the reject and retreat principle for more than just pay. You can also use it for what time slot your interview is going to be on. You can use it for how long of a time it is. You can use it once again for pay and all that kind of stuff. But it's not just necessarily about the money.
Right.
Yeah. So like if you want to do an interview with somebody and they're like, "Oh yeah, you can do like 15 minutes. But you're like, there's a lot I want to talk about, there's a lot I want to showcase. I would love to do 30 minutes. You could try to bring somebody else and like, oh yeah, well, we're actually doing this show with this other band. Would you be able to give us a 45-minute slot if it's me and this other artist?
Yeah.
When they're like, oh, cool, they're bringing another artist in, so that would take more time. Yeah, we can do 45. Or if they're like, oh, well, the most we can do is 30, 15 for each of you. Well, now you still get your 15, but you're now introducing the other band that's the reciprocity towards them and things like that. Or the vice versa happens. Like, oh yeah, well, we need you to perform a 2-hour-long set. And you're like, well, shit, I only want to play for an hour.
Yep.
Or I don't know, I only want to play for an hour and a half or whatnot. Because you don't want to start off too far apart. Being like, I really only have enough music or a set for an hour. Like what you're paying us is usually what we pay for an hour-long set. I'm like, okay, like can we do an hour and a half instead of 2 hours? Might be willing to do it. You might not get the gig, but if you don't want to play the 2-hour gig anyways, it's a way to kind of work that out or compromise that and things like that.
That's great.
It's a little more tricky in how it can be applicable in these situations, but the reject retreat principle can be applied in things that are more than just pay, more than just money.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And then you want to it?
No, I think you summarized it nicely. Great way to demonstrate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Oh man, we always fall apart at the end.
We do.
It's because it's got to be a joke.
It's because we knowledge dump.
Yeah.
And then we're just like, all right.
Just exhausted afterwards.
We're going to have to retreat.
Yes, we are. I'm doing that click thing a lot today.
Click run.
Anyways, if you enjoyed this episode and you like the value, if you found value in what we gave you and you feel indebted to us, all you got to do to repay it is follow us, click that like button, subscribe, whatever it is. That's all we're asking. Takes like 2 seconds of your time and is very, very beneficial for us. If you want to go above and beyond, please share it with any other musicians or independent artists that you know of that you think could benefit from listening to this podcast or following us on our social platforms for all the information that we give out. If there's anything you want to know, anything you're struggling with, please message us at podcast@musicmakerscookbook.com or DM us or whatnot. We will try to read it and get back to you as fast as we possibly can. Aside from that, please tune in next week. We've got another episode in this series coming along where we're going to be talking about liking.
Yay.
Yeah. Do you like people and how liking someone allows them to influence you and control and manipulate you and puppeteer? It's very, very dark. I went off the deep end. Brandon, say goodbye. I've been watching some Has Been Hotel, so my brain's kind of in that like a little bit darker.
Yeah.
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 It's a good show. The music in it's really fucking solid. Yeah. Are you a fan of musicals? You don't like musicals?
Not a huge fan of musicals.
No.
I liked Hamilton.
Okay, that's a good one.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I think I do it well. You do it well.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Bon appetit.